Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is Roll. In today's video I want to make an update to my main build, which is a hybrid or celestial untamed I play in PvE. It's been my main since End of Dragon release, was across the changes and updates and reworks. It's just beautiful build. It can do anything and it's one of the best solo builds to play in the game. It's not just for ranger, and I advise you to try it at least. And it is a build to play if you are a ranger. Now, if you're familiar with this build or watched my previous guides for it, you already know it, and the constant or the current build that we are using is just great. You don't even have to update it if you don't want to. It's capable of doing anything. It's already one of the best builds in the game. However, why not make it better? Because ArenaNet have just given us something I just couldn't pass. So what ArenaNet gift us is this relic of the Biomancer. So every time you inflict bleeding or poison, you will heal, and no internal cooldown, so this thing will trigger on every stack. Even a single skill can give you 10 stacks or more. It will heal you for every single one of them. So this is really good for survivability and constant healing, and I couldn't just pass this and ignore it. So the build we used to have, or the one you already know, I used to go with Relic of Aristocracy, this one, which will give me a total of 15% condition duration. it's a setup that works with every condition build. It's one of the best you can do in the open world right now, which is running Sigil of Aristocracy, Trapper Rune, and Sigil of Ferality. So it will give you 2 stacks of vulnerability for 8 seconds every 2 seconds once you strike in a foe from behind or the flank. Obviously, if it's a defiant bar enemy, it will simply do the vulnerability, no conditions asked. So if you don't have a constant source of vulnerability or weakness in your build, this was a really good thing to keep up as vulnerability stacks. So every time you will have them, you need at least minimum of 8 seconds so the aristocracy stacks do not drop, and keep 5 stacks of aristocracy all the time. And this build would give you 80% condition duration without anything else. So you get the Malice Relic and, like we said, the Trapper and Fall Celestial with Aristocracy and Ferality. This setup will get you to 80%, and once you trigger the Fall Aristocracy, it's 95% to all condition sources. So if you do Confusion, Torment, Burning, Bleeding, everything is at its top with the highest amount of condition damage on a Celestial build, with Trapper Rune obviously. So this build alone can already keep up 25 stacks of vulnerability in an accurate rotation. However, if the rotation is not accurate enough, if you had to survive, if you get CC'd, stuff like that, and even in the normal mobs when you sometimes get the cheeky extra vulnerability because it's not easy to keep up the aristocracy, so you always want this extra vulnerability source. That's why I ran Ferality, but the build itself can keep up 25 stacks no problem. So since we're removing aristocracy, there is no need for Ferality anymore, so I changed it for Earth. And Earth will give you 6 seconds of bleeding, obviously with the condition duration. It's a lot more than 6 seconds, every 2 seconds when you critically hit a foe. Which we have a lot of critical chance with the Fury. As you can see, it's insane. Fury give us 40% because of a trait, obviously, versus Quarry. But I kept Trapper Rune, actually. So let's talk about the Sigil first. Now we have an extra source of bleeding. It's more reliable on normal mobs around than Ferality since it's only work in a flank position, while this will keep triggering, so it's work very decently, while you already have multiple sources of vulnerability. And either ways, you don't feel this much different damage. Normal mobs would die in couple or 4 hits at most, while in bosses you just unload everything, which this will keep up the source, and you already have 25 stacks of bleeding, so this is a little bit better. You lost a little bit of condition duration, obviously, comparing to aristocracy, but this will a little bit compensate. So the total thing for the build, I was honestly able to get a little bit more damage than I used to, but I don't have arc DPS, so if you want to run your own test, go ahead and maybe tell me in the comments. But as you can see here, I was able to even surpass 22k, which I wasn't able to do that on this build. Obviously, I'm talking completely solo, no boons from the council, no condition on the golem, no huge hitting target or anything. I'm acting like I'm completely alone, running into a champion or a legendary. I'm trying to kill it. So this is a solo numbers, and this is a solo build. So why did I keep Trapper? Why not going for other rune to increase the condition duration or try to solve this? Because no other rune will give me the same condition damage, and that's even more valuable. It will get the initial spike of the condition higher, so my start would be almost on 20k immediately with a single burst, and not like 18 if I'm really accurate around that. So it's 1k to even 2k on the initial start depending on the situation and the accuracy. Besides that, it's like the open world is not just about bosses. You'll be running and killing normal mobs and doing hearts or whatever. So most of the time you find yourself not finishing a rotation or not even trying to go into a rotation. You start on axe and you stick on axe almost all of the fight or most of the fight. So you spend more time on axe than actually boss weapons, unless you are in a serious fight against a boss. And axe do bleeding and burning. So my first initial thought, I was going to change Trapper, and I tested a lot with the Afflicted. It will give you poison, bleeding, and condition duration. So it will solve a huge part of this. It will get you back to the same amount of bleeding or a little bit higher, and it will increase even the poison duration. But you lose 125 condition damage points. And that, even the bleeding will get increased by like 10 points, 15 points, stuff like that. But it will, like this skill, for example, from 21 and 3/4 seconds to 23.5 seconds. But it is the same, no problem. However, the poison lost a tiny bit of damage because the less in condition damage was not compensated by the condition duration, only 10% extra. And the problem is, like we said, this setup is the one that's important because it's not all boss fights or champions. And the burning side of it lost a lot of damage with no compensation. It lost 5% into the duration from the normal setup, and it lost condition damage. And it is a huge source of cleave. This thing hit AoE and it's ammunition, and this thing cleave everything around you. So now only this kept up the same damage. This is less unless you move into dagger, and that is a problem. So the difference is really minor, but you reduce your damage when you just running around hitting mobs from distance and trying to move fast. That's why Trapper is still the best option, even so we can't get the maximum of duration. But like I said, feel free to change whatever you want, but this is the best setup. So let's review that again. I am full Celestial. Everything is Celestial. And I use the Trapper rune. I use condition infusion, but you don't have to use infusion. It's not like really a part of the build or anything. I'm trying to get as better as I can. And my weapon run Earth and Malice in both weapons, and I use the sigil, the relic of Biomancer. Obviously, this build is extremely overpowered. Can you run it differently? Can you run something like Fractal Relic or whatever? Or why don't I run a damaging relic? First of all, I look into things by how much value I get from it. A little bit of increase in DPS. Like if you run Fractal Relic, this build can get maybe to 24k DPS. But why? It will trigger every very long time, and it's really useful only against bosses, or it's simply an extra hit that doesn't worth anything on a simple mob while trying to do a heart and you're hitting like almost 20 different mob before that thing come off cooldown again. Which is this one. It have 20-second cooldown in to keep triggering, and it will trigger like on a single target. So there is no point in almost any condition relic for solo gameplay. These things work in group content like raids and stuff like that, but there is no point in actually running it in the open world. Aristocracy was the closest thing and the best and when you took into damage, but Aristocracy has the downside of the idea of vulnerability. You could run with Aristocracy as it is and change for Earth to make it a little bit better, and you don't really care what it works the same around normal mobs, but Aristocracy can drop, so there's no point in it, and it will really be efficient as better as it is in the bosses only, so you get the value at least there. But why even lose in this insane amount of survivability? Healing on every stack you do from every skill on poison and bleed. So something like that is great. And you already have enough damage to solo anything. I've soloed Strike Mission even. So this thing is just great this way, and I couldn't just pass the opportunity. So Biomancer, Force Celestial, Trapper Rune, Malice, and Earth. Now when we look into my traits, I run Skirmishing, and when survival, the normal behavior, the thing about this trait, it didn't change, so if you already know them, maybe skip this part. So in Skirmishing, we get Sharpened Edges, which again, on a 33 cooldown, you and your bit do bleeding on critical hits. So on a 33% of your critical hits, you and your bit do bleeding. So it's not only you, but what we care about is what you do, since this was our critical chance with the Fury, maybe like 20% of our hits will trigger extra bleeding, which also will trigger the Biomancer. We get Hidden Barbs to increase our bleeding damage by a third, and we go with Vicious Quarry to give us 40% critical chance from Fury and increase our ferocity also, and another source of Fury. So it's really great since we are a hybrid build in a way. This trait line is almost like you have to run it with any PvE build. If you run Shortbow, you run this one. If you run Power build, you run this one, or a hybrid. If you run full Condi, so this one is not really useful, you can run Quick Draw to have more quickness and reset a cooldown of skill. So since we are hybrid, we care about bar, we run this one. It's really great trait. Another source of swiftness, even so we have already Warhorn, and another source of Fury is very reliable to keep up our Fury even with witness knowledge, so our Fury is permanent. It's never going to fall in a fight. We have permanent quickness, permanent Fury, permanent swiftness, and the might fall from time to time a little bit, but we can keep up 25 easily, depending on our situations. And we have extra critical chance and critical damage in flanking, and obviously any defined bar enemy you don't even need to flank, it will trigger the effect all the time. So it's really great trait line. And Winner's Survival, that will give us extra 150 expertise even if we don't run the bit corresponding with this trait. We go with ambidexterity, will give us 120 condensant damage and extra 120 if we run dagger or torch. Guess what? In this setup we have dagger, in this setup we have torch, so we always get the extra. And also it reduces the recharge skill of dagger and torch skill, so it's really great trait to run with. And lastly, we run Wilderness Survival, so we can cleanse condition and get fury with all our survival skills. Combine that with cleansing unleash, we have a lot of cleanses to deal with any situation that when we need cleanse. That's why I don't run Poison Master. It's not all about damage. It will not make that much difference. I already have insane amount of damage. You need to have all the sources that help your build. You need to have your build able to adapt in any situation. So you need range, you need melee, you need condition cleanse, you need survivability against power, you need enough healing. All the things you could need. That's why I run Wilderness Knowledge. And the minor, I go, I have endurance regeneration increased by 25%, protection on dodge, and protection from any source heal us, which means we can use this thing to get protection. We can dodge in combat to get protection. We also have turtle with hunker down to get protection. Any source that will give us protection will start heal us and our pet. Now lastly, for Untamed, we go with debilitating blow. It will give us on an 1 internal second cooldown. Every time we CC the enemy, if we are unleashed and we use this skill or this skill, a hard CC, so a daze or a knockdown, this is the only two skills we have, it will trigger poison. So in this state we are unleashed, and if our bit unleashed, it will be slow. Try to always use it while unleashed, so you put the poison for extra damage and it will trigger the healing. 2 stacks for 2 stack biomancer, and you have insane amount of slow that this is pointless. This skill will give you 7 seconds plus of slow. This skill will say give you another 5, and you have CC to break any defiance bar, no matter how big it is, unless you simply want to break it in a small window, then obviously you have a lot of soft that's not gonna work. But you have chill, you have immobilize, you have, like we said, slow, you have dazes, knockdowns, and even you have CC from your bits. So that's why try to always land it while being unleashed. You can run the other skills, obviously it's up to you, but we want the damage, why have defense like this? And this one, even so it's nice, but now we also heal from this, not just do damage, so that's why I would run with it. And add to that heal, actually having trait like Let Loose, because now the Unleash Ambush skill will reset every time you weapon swap, so you would be able to hit it back to back. Hit it in this weapon, switch to this weapon, and hit it again. So the rotation normally would be like you start with Unleash skill immediately once you change to the weapon. You use all your skills, wait for it to come again. Hit the Unleash Ambush, switch weapon, hit the Unleash Ambush. Use all the skills, wait for it again, hit the Unleash Ambush, switch weapon, hit the Unleash Ambush. That will keep up the quickness and the might, and will trigger the healing from the natural fortitude, the life steal. It's just beautiful how it lands. And I take also cleansing unleash, so every 10-second cooldown, whether I unleash or unleash my bit, leash myself, I will cleanse to condition. And it's a really good trait since I can't really rely this much on the survival skill since I use them for damage or for quality of life. So they will not always be off cooldown once I need them. So having a very short, even shorter than any skill I have, condition cleanse is great. Beside the other sources or this to deal with boons is overpowered. There's like we no need. We need obviously to deal with boons in PvE, but this is a 10-second cooldown AoE around my bit. Once I teleport it to the enemy, will remove everything. Remove 3. And this one will also remove 2. And it's a 10-second cooldown, so I just can keep doing it and doing it again. It's not really a big deal. Boons do not make problem to Untamed. And the other one will give you quickness, we have permanent quickness, or stability if you CC the enemy while the bit's unleashed. The quickness if you are unleashed, like that. We only have 2 hard CC, like this ability, this one and this one, so it's not really a reliable source for stability to give up the cleansing, and we already have other source of stability. And we are very tanky, and we can heal after we get CC'd, and we can stun break, so it's not really a big deal. And even our bit can tank for us a lot of the time, so this is the best trait. And the minors, you get the healing from the Unleash, extra vitality, and Valve the Untamed, one of the best traits and amazing traits that came for the Ranger. It reduces incoming damage on you if you are leashed, like your bit is unleashed like that, or increase your damage if you are unleashed. It's only work for power damage, outgoing damage, outgoing damage for 25%. So it's really good to use with a build like this, because if you're doing damage freely, you can be unleashed almost all the time, unless you simply need to use the let loose. You have to leash yourself, unleash again to get access to it, use it, and then stay into unleash state. If you're trying to tank or the enemy doing too much damage or you feel cornered, you leash yourself all the time. Most of your damage coming from the condition anyway. So it's really optimal and very good to use with a hybrid build, even more than a bar build, honestly, because you don't lose this much in staying in a leash state while your bit being unleashed. So let's look also in other choices. For example, my bits, I stick to Jacaranda because it's a great source for our vulnerability. Our attacks from Unleash Ambush in both weapon put vulnerability, and the auto attack from Dagger put vulnerability on the last stack, while having also Hunter's Call to keep up the vulnerability. Axe will put it in the Unleash Ambush skill, and Jacaranda will put it from her root, and will cleave every 10 seconds. Every enemy in her area will keep getting vulnerability. And Jacaranda will cleave enemies a lot, will do multiple hits at a time, so she helped me reset force fortification even faster than many other bits. And she is a tanky bit with high toughness, so she can tank from me, can heal herself even with a low health, so I find it really good. She do high damage, she tank well, she help with my vulnerability, and CC with the immobilize, it's just perfect. And I stick to her for the extra damage as long as I don't need survivability. If I need to survive more, like I feel really in a difficult position or situation, or I need high CC, I switch to my turtle. For extra projectile defense, beside the involving haze, I get hunker down, and protection heal me and my bit, remember, and I have 2 CCs. So if I want more survivability, I switch to turtle, or if I want CC, I can also switch to turtle for hard CC to break defiance bar fast, actually. But other than that, I stick to Jacaranda almost all the time. For my skills, I take Troll and Gwent for the highest heal possible, Fury and Condition Cleanse. I go with Exploding Spores. I can use it while leashed for protection, or use it while unleashed for might. And most of the time I use it while unleashed, unless I really need this protection to trigger also the trait of debilitating blow and get extra might, keep up the might from falling. Other than that, I would use it while in this state, my bits unleashed, to get the protection if I need some healing and more survivability. However, with Biomancer Antly, you even started getting even more survivability, so you need even to survive this hard far less. I go Sharpened Stone for extra damage, and I can spread my damage easily with the axe and killing mobs faster. It's also a source of fury. It's a condition cleanse. It's just beautiful, and I keep it on me all the time. So I run like that. I ride my mount like that. Every time it come off cooldown, I just used to press it. So if I start combat right now, I just went to the area I want to fight in, and I start combat. I will burn it, and now I have like 15 seconds only to use it again, so I always cast it. Quickening Zephyr is not mandatory in this build. You can run even more survivability, something like Protect Me. Obviously, it have to be a stun break. You can't play without stun break in a solo build if you want the build to be good. So you can run Protect Me as a source of healing and barrier, which even crazier option. However, I already have insane survivability, I ran it for the quickness. You would say why? Because if not, I'm not in combat and I can't use my boss unleash skills back to back, the quickness from a single use is like 5 seconds only. So if I'm gathering while I'm running around like a wood or mining or do anything, I can simply do that and use it again, use the skill, and I have insane amount of quickness. More than the 10 seconds I need to reset this skill. So as you can see, I can use it again, and I still have insane amount of quickness. So once it come again, I can use it with this one, and I can keep up permanent quickness even outside of combat while I'm doing mining or gathering or whatever. So this build has the most quality of life possible to have all of it in one build. And the last thing, I have force fortification, a source for super speed with this one. So even if you need to move fast in combat, it gives you a lot of bones, it gives you stability, and it reduces the incoming damage insanely on you, and you can reset it with multiple hits from you or your bit. Every hit will shave off some of the cooldown. This thing will keep balls and hits. This is 5 hit. The Unleash Ambush 5 hit. Your bit will cleave mobs with 5 hits. This thing will keep balls and 5 hits. This thing will also balls 5 hits, and those are AoE to everything around you. This will trigger 5 hits to everything around you. And Hunter's Call will cleave with 16 hit on a single target, while this hit also will hit everything around you. Now, I got you through everything that is multiple hit in this build. So try to always do as many hits as possible, especially we have quickness, when you cast this, so it will reset the cooldown. Instead of 90, you can get it to 30 to 20 seconds every use if you use it while you have access to multiple hits. So don't simply use it off cooldown. Obviously, this is a survival skill. Like most of the time, you won't even need to cast it as much. But when you use it, try to cast as many hits as possible. So you have Hunter's Call, skills like those, or your axe, you have this, and the Unleash Ambush, stuff like that. So now let's summarize why this build is the best and why I tell you to play it. Let's look at our survivability. Biomancer have increased our survivability significantly, obviously. We now don't have moments of heals and survival and then downtime. We heal constantly, all the time, because of it. Every single stack will actually work from every skill. Axe 2, for example, give you 5 hits for 5 stacks of bleed, but it pierces. It can hit up to 25 targets in a really crowded area for 25 triggers from Biomancer. The Unleash Ambush for the axe is 4 stacks of bleed, can hit up to 5 targets. That's 20 triggers. Exploding Spores, 6 stacks of poison, which mean 6 triggers on every mob. That's like up to 30 if you have enough mobs to eat all of it. And this is constant. Combine that with the Unleash Ambush skills triggering the Life Steal. That's also another source of healing. With Rugged Growth Trait, all protection will heal you. I also use a food that regen my health, so I'm constantly healing over a second. And I still have my healing skill outside of all that. So this is insane amount of survivability. But it's not just about the healing. I have Vow of the Untamed to reduce the damage if I need it. I have more vitality than any other ranger build because I'm Untamed. And I have forced fortification to reduce damage faster, with protection also reducing damage. I have 2 tanky bits to tank for me if needed. I have multiple sources of projectile defense to stop that. I have even weakness. I have CC to break any defense bar. I can deal with boons, which something other builds can do outside of Untamed, unless you really build for it, and it will never be as effective. We will get to this part later. So on a 10-second cooldown, I can remove boons, and I still have Exploding Spores to remove boons. I have stability to deal with out of CC with stun breaks. I have conditioned damage to deal with mobs that take less power damage, and I have power damage to deal with things that only take like power damage. In different situations I can face, I can still have something to do. I have range, I have melee weapon, and I can have cleave all around me. I have multiple AoE sources. So this build have everything in its disposal, as much quality as possible. It even has this closing gap mobility from the dagger 2. It have teleportation from the dagger ambush to even climb up areas, chasing mobs, or even cut distance closing. I have 2 sources of super speed with permanent swiftness. As you can see, I listed everything this build have, and this is why it is the best ranger build that you can play, and one of the best builds that very few can even compete with it in the game. If you're interested in a solo build that can do anything from story to hearts to solo bosses to solo events, anything it can do. Now compare that with the galeshot. I know a lot of people want me to make a galeshot video, and I will be looking at it. I just had to delay it so I can get all the relics and do a lot of extensive testing on everything I think I can do on every theory. But I already have a build that work as the beta. Maybe I can make it better in an update video, but it already worked very fine, and I will put the link in the description if you want to play it. It's one of the best power builds you can play probably on a ranger. Not the best is also Untamed, and I will put the best build power for the Untamed also in the description. And honestly, it is a power build for solo gameplay in the game, not just for Untamed. So I really urge you to watch that, and I will even give you a little bit of guide more on what do I mean by the best build, which we already explained here by having access to every tool. He never in a situation when there is something could have been better or something is missing in the build itself. But the problem with galeshot, or the biggest one, is not only it lose survivability comparing to Untamed, whether you play power or condition, because of the amount of healing from lifesteal, stuff like that. And even if you build to it, you sacrifice something else, something from the damage, something from the boons. there's always a price. The other problem is it really struggle with boons. Since probably like End of Dragon or Path of Fire even, we have a lot of mobs that put boons in themselves. Some of them can even get a permanent protection, permanent resolution, and stuff like that. So that reduces your damage immediately and you can't do anything with it. Untamed have a 10-second AoE condition removal or boon removal, while even have access to other skills and even traits to even make it more crazy. And no matter what you do in galeshot, you can't deal with that. So there is multiple downside of galeshot, but this is probably the biggest. And even if you run a bit like Spine Gazer, for example, that can remove boons on a projectile in 20-second cooldown, it can do that for a mob that will keep reflecting projectile, for example. It's a 20-second cooldown. You have to run this bit. Now, this is a bit without CC, so you start losing CC, and your build doesn't have this much CC to begin with as galeshot. There's not much on the kit of it. So there is always a problem, there is always a sacrifice with it, and that's why it's not up to the game of the Untamed. That's why I advise you to play a build like that. Obviously, if you hate it or if you want to simply enjoy the new thing, I already have the build as I explained, and I will be working on updating it. Last thing I want to talk about is the rotation, and I want to explain the rotation for this one. So normally you run around, you maybe trigger swiftness or something, but outside of combat you be on your axe touch. Why? Because you can hit mobs from range, you can use the Unleash Ambush to hit everything around you in a circle, you can tag mobs running with a commander, moving from fight to fight easily, stuff like that. So Axe is the normal behavior. And you switch to Dagger in a 4 rotation or when the fight really long and you just keep dashing damage normally, so you start doing your rotation. So a lot of the time you will spend more time here than the other thing. Not every fight actually requires rotation. Fast fights killing mobs easy, they will not survive 2 or 4 hits at most. So what you do, you always start on the axe. I cast force fortification like I explained on this skill while trying to cast as many hits as possible from me and my bit to reset it again. But when you're just engaging normal mobs, you will not be casting force fortification and trying to reset it and stuff like that. It will just be there. But if you cast it, that's why in a demonstration of the rotation I will cast it at the start, just to show you how it, like the whole thing work practically. However, you start with the Unleash Ambush, always the first thing on your weapon start with the Unleash Ambush, and then I empty my skills. I already had this from the start, since I said I always cast it off cooldown. The cooldown will start shaving and it's still on you. If you start a fight while it only have like 5-second cooldown, you can unload it on the mobs and immediately start unloading another one. And I will cast all my skills, all my bit skills. I only keep like this one if I know there is boons coming and I need to remove them. Other than that, I just go for the extra damage and the good positioning of the bit. I keep teleporting it into mobs so it can ball mobs away from me. And once I finish those skills, I immediately go to the other weapon, start with the Unleash Ambush as we said, the first thing to start with, so it can reset as fast as possible, and then go immediately to the other weapon skills. So the idea, I start with the Unleash Ambush, I go with this field, I already casted this prior, I use this one to trigger the might as fast as possible, my bit skills, I like start with them and then Unleash Ambush. I use this field, I empty those other skills, go to the other weapon, use the Unleash Ambush, trigger the Warhorn, skill 4, maybe I can get few hits inside the Force Fortification time to reset it if I need, and use the other skills. And then I wait for the Unleash Ambush to reset, and it will be very close with the weapon reset time. So before, you can watch for it actually by looking to this button if you're not used to it. Before it like reach like 0, leash your bit or unleash your bit, so those skill be there, you will have those 2 can be casted again while this will be still off cooldown or on cooldown. And then you unleash again and hit your Unleash Ambush skill. You will find once you did that, this skill almost coming off cooldown. Wait for it because I call it an important cooldown with a huge damage. You hit it, immediately switch weapon, hit the other Unleash Ambush, start emptying your skills. And once almost this button come off cooldown, unleash your bit, you will be able to hit the 3 of them this time, unleash yourself again, hit the Unleash Ambush, switch, hit the Unleash Ambush, and start using the other weapon. So you only unleash your bit just before the cooldown of the weapon, so you can hit either those 2 skill or the second rotation you hit for the 3, then hit those 2 skill and then the other 3. And you keep up yourself in the unleash state, so you get the extra damage from Vow of the Untamed. We only unleash the bit just to trigger this again, so we hit double unleash ambush skills every weapon rotation. So always start with it, play, wait until it again, switch, start with it on the other weapon, hit your skills again, wait for it, hit it, switch the other weapon, hit it again, and the other skill. This is how the rotation works. Now I will show you a demonstration of this rotation, how it works, so you can see it in action and see how I do it on a golem here. And this is a completely solo, no extra boons, no huge target, no full condition, the mob or anything. Lastly, also my foods. I use Corsair Tuning Crystal for extra damage, and I use Mango Pie for extra survivability. But obviously, you can use freely a condition damage food or any other source. If you're really okay with spending money, this is probably one of the best I like to use, which giving you a stat attribute to everything, even concentration and expertise, and giving you again regeneration. There is other sources or other food if you like to, but I like the extra even survivability with things like that. So that's it for the video. I hope you like it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Comment any questions if you want. Share it with your friends. And check the description for other videos. And wait for the Gale shot coming soon. And I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.